Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Karaleise. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? I am doing fine. I'm coming to you from my hotel room. I'm in Denver, Colorado, near to the Rocky Mountains. I've been traveling a lot. I have been visiting clients and working on some workshops with them. So I just came back from Philadelphia, where we spent 5 days 5 days with the client working through requirements in a requirements workshop. And then I flew to Denver to have another 3 days of workshop with that client's client. So, working on these workshops, multi-day workshops, is very, very demanding on you as a BA. And in today's video, I want to talk to you about how to prep and how to be successful when you're running a multi-day workshop. Now, this can work as well if you're doing just a one-day workshop, but I can tell you that running a workshop for 5 days in a row is definitely much more work and much more demanding, much more stressful, requires much more of everything to make it successful. So I'm going to give you the story of how I did it and how I was able to achieve success. So before the workshop, obviously, the client already knew a little bit about the product and they understood what we did. So there was a whole sales cycle, right? Then the sales cycle, the sales rep would have explained what we are, what we do, what our product does, and they, demoed some of it. They don't normally demo a lot of detail, not the detail that we would get into. And the client would have seen enough to agree that yes, this is going to solve their problem, and they probably would have signed a SOW, and there was some contractual agreement. However, they're not going to go forward until they fully understand all the capabilities of what this thing does. So this workshop was not necessarily only a requirements gathering from like pie in the sky, have no idea, start there. It was more, they had some sense of what we did, but they didn't understand the full details to know if it would actually exactly solve their problem. So I was tasked with running this workshop, and the outcome of the workshop would be one, to get alignment with the client, two, to expose the client to the full fledged of features for our product that would be applicable to them, and three, to make sure I had all the decisions, all the takeaways, anything that they would have discussed and said, well, we don't do it this way, we do it that way, write those down, get those documented as requirements that we need to incorporate when we go into our next phase. So it was a very blended requirements gathering where it was demoing the tool and gathering requirements at the same time. And just to give you an idea of the kinds of people that we had in this room, it was around, let's say, 20, 25 people, but these are very decisive decision makers, right? They are subject matter experts. They've been working with their client that this tool would be serving for a very long time. It's a very high pressure situation. There is millions of customers at risk if this thing doesn't work. It's a blend of retail and banking. So there's just so many complexities in this project that you really had to get it right. And my company's position was that we wanted to prove to them that we were the solution of choice and that they would be safe making a decision to go with us, which they kind of already made, but they wanted to see more to kind of sign on the dotted line. So going in, we had a sales handoff. So the sales team that was there kind of walked me through what have we talked about, what are their environment about. I had solution architects also on the team. So it was myself as a senior business analyst. We had three solution architects. We had delivery manager, project manager, VP of product. We had all of those people. So it was our team was maybe like 6, 7 people. And then we had two other guys who were in the sales process to also join so that there is continuity between what the sales is saying and what we're saying, because we are now the product expert. I am the subject matter expert in the particular thing that they were trying to purchase. So one of the things about this is that running a multi-day workshop with only one business analyst, yeah. So just to show you, there's 3 software architects, 3 for this thing. There are 3 project managers for this thing, but there's only one BA. So I looked at that as like, this is crazy because this workshop is the main person running the workshop is the BA. So you feel the immense amount of pressure to run the workshop and to keep everybody engaged and to know your stuff and to be able to explain that. Whereas the software architects have each other to bounce ideas off of and to plan what they're going to talk about and to kind of handle their part, which is going to be the technical part. And then the project and delivery managers, they have each other to really strategize as to, okay, what is the positioning that we're going to do? Any contract related questions, they can take it. But the biggest pressure was on the BA, me. And this is because I am leading the discussion. I'm leading what we talk about. I'm leading what's next. I'm leading the flow. I'm leading the demos. I'm leading the questions. I'm fielding all the questions. I'm making sure that I capture the results. So this is how we broke it up. So everybody was, subject matter in their own area. But while I'm leading, obviously it's difficult to lead and take notes at the same time. So the project manager, delivery manager, I created a Miro board. So again, one of the lessons I want you to take away from this video is you have to set up the structure for your own success. When you work with these large organizations and you work with these large companies and you're doing these very, very important deals that are millions and millions of dollars, you really have to give the impression of a very organized and very well thought out process. And to be honest with you, nobody's going to prep you for this workshop. Nobody's going to say, well, this is the best way to do it, and this is a presentation deck you should use. There may be a template that you can borrow. There may be a template that you can say, well, okay, we can adjust this template and create these extra slide decks. But nothing is plug and play. Because if you're working as an analyst, you're going to have to analyze the actual situation you're in and the actual client requirements that they're giving you, which might not be the same for some other client. So even if you have a template, you have to modify it to what it is that you're trying to talk about. So I want to encourage you that you have to kind of set yourself up for success. Your company, your manager, you guys would meet and they might give ideas, but nobody's really taking responsibility for what they think is your responsibility. The BA's job, I'm going to be honest with you, is doing everything. You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. There are people that can show up to the workshop and they just talk off the top of their head because they know the content. But you as a BA, you can't just show up and have a wide discussion where everybody's talking and it's just like free form. You can't do that because you have a workshop that is unstructured. You'll have a workshop that they feel like they haven't gotten to all the points because the conversations went in all different directions, and you wouldn't have met the goal that you would have wanted to meet. And remember, when they fly us out to these locations, it's very expensive. Okay, we fly out business class, we get there, there's a nice hotel. Like this is the hotel I'm in right now. This is the hotel I'm in. It's a very nice hotel. And if I were to go downstairs, I'm going to take the video for downstairs. It's a very, very beautiful hotel. It costs money. It costs money to send us out here. So they don't want to send you out here. You waste their time. You need to have results that they can say this was worth the investment. And then every night we would go out. We went to Top Golf. We went to different restaurants. We did, group activity. It was very stressful because at the end of the activity, somebody has to go home and prepare the slides for the next day. But I'll talk about that in a minute. So the first thing is set yourself up for success when you're doing a multi-day workshop. We could create some notes application, maybe Notion. Maybe you could create even just a Word document. Or I prefer a PowerPoint slide because Word gets too wordy. You want to be able to take quick notes. The reason why I like to use Miro board is because I can create, I'm going to show it to you. I can create these frames and I put sticky notes in there that are empty for all the things. And I call that my parking lot. And then I call whatever the outcome is. Maybe I want to say what are all the new features that they want that we don't have. Maybe what are all the customizations that they're going to need. So you can create frames in Miro board, which are just blocks of this is a area for this type of requirement or discussion. And then you can put some blank sticky notes all over it so that when you're in the meeting, they don't have to be clicking and creating a sticky note. Set yourself up for success. The sticky note is there. When people start talking, just ask one of your coworkers to keep taking the notes, taking the notes, taking the notes, because you're going to have to review that later, and you don't have the time. You're not going to remember everything. Again, this is a multi-day workshop. 5 days of workshop. There's so much content. There's so much to discuss. There's so many things that we have to work out. We can't do it in one day. So set the mirror board up, set up the frames at what you need, put the sticky notes already on their blank sticky notes so that when it's time to take notes, everybody can just move to a sticky note, and it's faster because they don't have to be clicking and creating and dragging and all that stuff. It's done. Now, the other thing I would say is for your presentation, make sure you have a good flow. Remember that if you're demoing something to somebody, if they have seen the demo before in the sales process, you don't really want to repeat every single thing that they already know because that would be a waste of time. But you have to bring everybody back to where you want them to start from. People are busy. They're doing all kinds of things all day long. They're in different meetings. They are handling different problems. When they come to the workshop, and the reason why the workshop is so good is because they are dedicated to you for that time. They can't go to any other meetings. Well, we hope not. Some people had to step out 1 or 2 times for a meeting, but it's fine. It's okay. They have to like pay attention. Hopefully, you have basically cornered them off into a room and said, "Pay attention to me. Eyes on you." Right? So you have their attention. Now, what are you going to do with it? You can't waste their time. That's for sure. And in this room, again, you have VPs, you have CIOs, you have lead technical developers, you have VP over IT and product. I mean, these are very, very knowledgeable people. And these are very, very decisive people. Like in this case, this bank that we went to is a huge bank, and they have branches all over. And the guy who is in charge of the technology stack for them, he's a very decisive man. And he'll tell you right away if you're talking nonsense, he'll just tell you. We don't do that, and we don't want to do that. Moving on. Right? So these are just the personalities that you have to deal with. So you have to be a good measure, a good judge of where if you're going in the right direction, switch, pivot, come back to that, seamlessly. It's a skill. And I'm not saying as a new BA you should be intimidated by this, because it's a skill that you have to learn over time. You're going to make mistakes the first time you do this. And I'm here to help you kind of understand that mistakes that you're going to make, you can recover from them, and then you can do better. And hopefully by watching this video, you won't make as many mistakes because now I'm telling you what to do. See? So you have your mirror board. You have your template that they're going to give you for the company. You're going to adjust that template to make it relevant to that client. And you're going to walk through the flow. So as I said earlier, they already saw this in the sales demo. You don't need to repeat every single thing, but you can just bring them all together and say, this is what we talked about. This is what we had discussed. This is a recap of where we are. And then that way it helps you to lead into what you're about to talk about. Then you can talk about, let's say this is for a configuration project. You can say, well, this is what we do today. Like some kind of opening that helps everybody in the room just kind of level set and prep themselves for the next set of conversations that you're going to have. So in my case, because we had a sales team and because they already saw the application, they saw a prototype, they didn't see the actual application. I was able to go in and I was able to do something of a comparison. Here's what it looks like out of the box. Here are the features that we have. Here's how it works. Click around, show them things. And then I would say, this is what we're aiming towards. This is our end state, which is the prototype that they saw. Now, there's a difference between what you get out of the box and what you want to get in the end state. So they would be like, okay, well, we need to move this around and some things like that. We need to put this option here and put this option there, which was great. Those are requirements. So what I would do is I had in the slide deck, after I showed all of the different topics I want to talk about, I had a slide that was just like main takeaways. What were the main things that we discussed that I want to make a note of? What are the changes that we want to make? What are the customizations we got to make? What are the different options or configurations we have to make? All of that. Put a slide for that. And then you put a slide for what are the decisions that was made today. So we agreed that we're going to load 6 months of transactions when the user logs in for the first time. We agreed that we're going to do OTP when they log in. We agreed that we're going to allow them to connect to an external account. Things like that. Whatever your environment is, right? I'm banking, so that's why I can talk about banking stuff. But all of those decisions need to be documented. Now you're like, well, we're all in the room and we all said it, but we all heard it. Got to be documented. So you keep that in there. So now at the end of the day, you have what you showed them, what they talked about, and you have a slide for your main takeaways, which is the things that may just be clarifications that you got. And then you have things like what are the decisions that you still need to get answers for? What are the things that we have not yet decided in this day? That's important too, right? Because things are going to come out that you're going to be like, they can't make the decision right now. They got to go talk to their team. They got to talk to legal. They got to go do some queries to get the data and see what it says and blah, blah, blah. There's action that they have to take. So, and some of the actions could be you have to take. So in this workshop, like on day one, there's a number of actions that the client had to take. And there was a few actions that our product, our company had to take as well. And we documented that. Now, one thing I didn't say, let's put a pin in this right now. One thing I didn't say prior to even getting into the workshop, which I didn't say before, was you have to work with your client to make sure you have a good schedule. The client is not the subject matter expert in your thing. What you work and what you do is you are the expert in that. So the client sometimes wants to manage how we distribute the discussion and who's in the room and who's invited and all that stuff. So that's fine. But if they propose topics to discuss over the 5 days that doesn't flow with how you want to talk about it, check them on that. Because in my case, they sent over the agenda and said, we're going to talk about this and this and this day and this and this and that day and that and that. And I look at it, I'm like, that doesn't flow together. So I met with the solution architects, I met with the delivery manager, I met with the project manager, and I said, listen, this flow doesn't work for me. If I'm going to be the one running this workshop, I don't want it to flow like this because this is haphazard and this is going to cause me to have to jump around too much. They're like, okay, Karaleise, what do you want? I'm like, okay, sure. This is what I want. This goes here, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. Move this over here, this goes here. Boom. And then for the technical piece, the essays look at it and said, well, yeah, we want to move this over here and this over there and do this on this day and do this on that day. So it's okay to push back even on your client if you believe that the way they've structured the sessions are not going to be valuable to how you want to deliver it. Okay? Don't take it as, well, they're the clients and we have to kind of accommodate what they can do. Let them go figure out who can be there on whichever day so that you can have the discussion in the order you want. Because if you don't, you go there and nobody's going to remember that it wasn't you that put the calendar together or the schedule together. They're just going to remember that you sat there and told them things that didn't flow together well and that they were confused and they didn't understand what you're talking about. And then you look bad, right? So you have to know when to push back. And again, these are skills that you learn over time. You're going to do your first one. Hopefully it won't be this way, but I'm just giving you some idea of how to make sure it's successful. The way you make a multi-day workshop successful is you need to have a very, very good and strict calendar. And then on the first day, you need to know if I'm going to be talking about this, make sure you come prepared, get there early. But sometimes at these multi-day workshops that you're going to some big facility in some, you know, conference center or whatever, you'll have breakfast, you have a time to chit chat. You don't want to get there and rushing and trying to finish your presentation and look like you're all busy. You know what I mean? You want to get there calm and relaxed, ready for the day. Everybody's early. Everything is fine. Now, I am not an early person, but you best believe when I have to go do a presentation, I'm early. Okay, I'm getting there early. So for the last week, I've been getting up at, oh my God, maybe like 3 in the morning to complete the presentation. I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I tried to get there at the office location for the conference center at about 8 a.m. So I'm on site at 8 a.m. I have breakfast, we do chit chat, we do a little, relationship building. And then I get into my presentation at 9. And the reason I don't have to get there at 8 so early, but there's always like a process to get to the floor. Like you have to sign in and you have to do all this other stuff. So I just don't want to have to be rushing and getting in there and just like looking like I'm the last person to arrive. So I try to be like an hour early, half an hour at least. And then the drive, when I leave out of my hotel at 8, the drive is like 20 minutes sometimes. So give and take traffic. So you want to leave out enough time for you to deal with any eventualities and also get to the clients, right? So that you can arrive rested and looking fresh and looking smart and looking like you're there to do business. Okay. Other thing I didn't talk about was your dress code. So today, because I'm going to the airport, I'm dressed like this, but I might even change this and put a hoodie on. So I'm not really looking like too professional because it's like, like a little soft jacket because it's cold outside, whatever. And I'm going to put my coat on. It's actually snowing right now. Let me show you. It's really snowing. But yeah, so today this is what I dress like because I had an early morning um, meeting and then we ended early and then I'm going to leave and probably put on a coat and go to the airport. But you want to dress professional, right? I know people say, oh, it's business casual. Like you can't even see my shoes, but I'm wearing heels. People say it's business casual, right? Let me show you my heels. See if you can see it right here. See? Okay. People say it's business casual, and that's fine. They can say business casual. But let me tell you something. When you show up to a company and it's um, like a banking company, insurance, healthcare, they want to see you looking like you know business. You show up there, you should look like you are about the business. You can't show up there, oh yeah, they say just casual. So I'm gonna wear my jeans and a little jacket and flats or something. I know a lot of us like to be very comfortable, very casual, but I promise you, when you show up looking like you're serious, they take you seriously. And if you're going to be running the thing and you are outdressed by the participants, not good. I'm not saying you have to wear like a three-piece suit. Now, for me, I wore this today because we only have like a little sync up downstairs with our internal team. But when I'm going to the client, I don't have my clothes out. I'm packing already, so I can't show you. But when I'm going to the client, best believe your girl turned up. One of the clients said to me, "Oh, you have such taste, like such fashion." Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I represent. Okay, so it's not that you can't just dress business casual, but I'm always business dressed. I'm in my jacket. I am wearing business attire. That's exactly what I'm wearing because I believe that, especially in banking, you have to show up correct. So, um, you have your agenda organized and you push back if you need to. You get your template and your presentation, get all the slides properly ready before you get there. Don't be looking like you're too busy trying to last minute do stuff. You get your team and you say to the team, hey guys, I'm going to be presenting. I can't take notes when I'm presenting. Please, here's the mirror board. Just add stuff as we talk about them and there. Even if it's the project manager, they'll do it. Like they'll do it. They don't mind. It's not like you're delegating down to them. It's like, this is what you need to be successful. Somebody has to help you. So you get them to do that. The technical guys, you need to coordinate with them. Okay, when I'm done with the business requirements, I'm going to pass over to you, right? And you're going to pick up from here in the presentation, or you're going to whatever. Or if they have their own presentation, then they start showing their own screens, and that's how we do it. So the coordination needs to be flawless. The client needs to feel like you guys are in sync and that you guys come ready and prepared. All right? Don't look like you're haphazard and we don't know which direction we're going. Don't want that in your multi-day because you got to see them again tomorrow. So that's it. So at the end of the day, you capture the main takeaways and the decisions that need to happen in your presentation. Now, the catch on multi-day workshop is this. The next day, you have other things on your agenda. You must recap what you did and what you decided on the day before. They have to feel the sense of continuity that you have actually documented things properly because during that day, the day before, you were like busy, right? But now you're going to have to show that all that busy work that your coworkers was taking notes, that they can reconfirm what we talked about yesterday. And that helps to solidify in their mind that you get it, that you understand what needs to be done, that their discussion didn't go to waste, right? So the next day, the very first thing you need to have on your slide deck is a recap of what was decided on and what was discussed the day before. So you go in and said, yesterday we talked a lot about these topics. We agreed on these. We had these main takeaways, and that was great. And I really thank you guys for that wonderful discussion yesterday. Compliment them. Compliment their participation, compliment their openness and transparency, compliment your clients, right? And so you start off the day with that recap. So now it sets the tone into what you're talking to about that day. And you do the same thing at the end of that day. Now, in order to do this, and this is the part that becomes really pressuring for you as the BA, is that in order to recap the next day, guess what you got to do? You got to go through those notes that your coworkers were taking. You better hope they be taking copious notes, because you got to, if at the end of the day, if you have the time, you have to sit with your team and say, what did we discuss? What did we capture? And come up with a slide deck where you can enter the stuff, where they captured from the mirror board into the slide deck, or if they could create the slide deck placeholder and be entering it there directly anyway, that would be wonderful. But some way, somehow, you have to recap what you did the day before when you go to the next day. Other things that I think are small but very important is have a slide for a break and have a slide for lunch, which means is this a slide that could have the word break on it? Please return by 10:30 a.m. Let's say you go for break for 10 minutes at 10:20. Please return by 10:30. And then you put a picture of like a sandwich or coffee or something, and that's your break slide. Because what happens is, even though you're doing these workshops in person, there's lots of people that won't be able to make it in person. They're going to join virtually. So they need to be able to see. People step away from the desk all the time and people don't hear stuff. Who knows? But that slide is going to be up when you're at break. So everybody can know, oh, we're at break, right? And this is the time I need to come back to the call. And same for lunch. Or they can see, oh, we're at lunch. We need to come back by 2 p.m. So if you go for lunch at 1, it's a 1 hour lunch. Okay, please return by 2 p.m. And you put a picture of like a sandwich or something that could be for lunch. It's small details, but it comes off so polished, like you're so prepared. I'm telling you, these are the little things that we did, that I did, to make the workshops very successful. So again, agenda, have the place for them to take the notes while you're presenting. Know your stuff, okay? Manage the conversation. You let people discuss, because when you put a topic out there, you show a demo, they're going to react to it. They're going to say, well, we don't do this in this way right now. We have this issue. We don't have this data field. All that stuff. Give them space to discuss, right? And make sure you give enough time for the discussion in your time slots. That's why you need to really go through the agenda, make sure that the time they give you for this discussion is appropriate, because you know how much detail you're going to need to talk about in that session. And try to stay within the time. Don't be going too wild. But give them enough time for them to discuss amongst themselves, and then you try to draw the conclusion from the discussion. So are we saying, so if they talk about stuff like that, you'll say, are we now saying that we're going to do it this way? So we're agreeing that it's going to be 12 months of transaction history and not 6 months. Is that correct? You need to reconfirm with them so that the people taking the notes can know what notes to take also, because they're going to be trying to take notes as they discuss, and it won't be the end decision. So now they can move those sticky notes out the way and put the one that we have decided, right? So you kind of help your team with that. The other thing I find is the only way that you can have that wrap up slide, like the overview of what was happening the day before, is obviously if you meet with your team or you have the documentation that they took while they were in the presentation. And sometimes that can be a lot of notes. So what was happening to me over the 5 days was, we would start at 9, we end around 5. And because I've been working from home so long, I didn't really fully get into the routine of getting up, getting ready, putting on my clothes on, getting downstairs, driving to the office, sitting there, talking to people endlessly. Like when we're doing these workshops, it's not a matter of when you're at work at home, right? You're just working at your pace and you're doing what you have to do that's assigned to you, right? But when you're in a workshop like this, where you are the subject matter expert, you're being hit with questions from all different directions about all different kinds of stuff. So your brain is like constantly heightened focus, right? Because you have to answer the questions, you have to understand the questions, first of all, then answer them. Then you have to know what's the next thing you're going to talk about. You have to make sure the talk track of your slide is appropriate. There's so much things going on in the head. Sometimes it's mental gymnastics, which I'm actually very good at. But for a newbie coming in, this can be very overwhelming. So in order for you to really keep focus, and it's good that we have breaks in between and we have a lunch time in between for you to kind of decompress and get ready for the next session. But at the end of the day, you are completely exhausted. any human completely exhausted, because both for you as a presenter and for them as the participant, because they have to be thinking also about their processes, about their database, about their fields, about whatever. They have to be thinking about that too, so they can ask the right questions. And then you have to be thinking about your product and what you do and what your environment is, to be able to convert that to answer their questions. So everybody's exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. But by the time we get to 5 o'clock, they normally have some activity in the evening, like, so they want to go to Top Golf or they want to go to a restaurant. So now they're like, oh, you will meet here at 6 o'clock. So you have no time to decompress. It's like, leave the offices, come to your hotel, change your clothes, run back downstairs, grab an Uber, go to the new location for the dinner. And then we're at dinner with the client and with our coworkers, and we're talking for hours. And we'll be there until, like, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, right? And then that's with the client. But no, we still have to meet together and huddle for the next day. So we leave at 9 from whatever place we were socializing with our customers. Now we got to go somewhere by ourselves. And from 9 to 10, huddling. Sometimes we go to 11 o'clock and then you go to bed, you're tired. And then all the things that they talked about in the huddle, guess what? It's you, the BA, that need to take the action most of the time. The action item is for you. So now you have to go home and update the slides, or sometimes you update the slides together. But I personally don't work well when I'm doing everything in a group. Like, just tell me what the outcome is and I'll go do it by myself, because I like to get the ideas in the group, but I can't be efficient when I'm just like, I need to focus, and I can't focus in a big group setting, right? So I'll just say, yeah, just send me on my Slack and I'll do it when I get back to my room. That's what I've been doing. So it happens that I would go to bed, gosh, around 11 o'clock. I would wake up around 3 a.m. every morning. And then I would hit the systems, get the screenshots I needed, update the slides. Because at 3 in the morning, my brain is the freshest. After a long day like that, if you ask me to update stuff after we just eat and just hang out and just was, vibing, like, I can't get back in the zone. Like, I'm exhausted. I don't want to be looking at nothing. So I'll just have high level conversations with the team. I go back to my room, and when I wake up in the morning where I'm rested, I feel a little better. I can work on this one. Sometimes I work from 3 to 6, and then at 6:30 I get up and make a little breakfast, and then boom, hitting the shower, getting ready to go. So it's been rough, and I felt like I wasn't sleeping. This morning I woke up and I found that my eyes were whiter than they've been. It is not very white, but for the last couple of days, my eyes were so red because I'm going to bed so late and I'm up with the computer. And I was like, oh my God, my eyes are so red. I was so tired and exhausted. But I finally got some sleep last night, and now I can feel a little bit more fresh and more awake. So I'm happy about that. But it was rough. So running these multi-day workshop is a lot of work for you as a BA. When you do your recap every day and you go through the topics that you have for that day, and you recap the next day about that thing that you talked about the day before, you get to the last day of the workshop. And this is where you have to, like, put a nice punctuation point in it. So you talk about whatever the topic is for that day, and then you do a wrap up of that day, and then you do a wrap up of the workshop, which means here's what we talked about in today's discussions, and then here's what we've been talking about from day one. Day one, the main points were this, and this. Now, you don't have to go over everything that you talked about in day one, because you already talked about that. What was the main 2 or 3 things that came out of day one? What was the main 2 or 3 things that came out of day two? What were the main decisions that came out of day one, day two, day three, day four? What are the main takeaways from all of the days, right? So you have that wrap up of the workshop, and you highlight those things. And then you want to say, here are the key follow ups that we must do in order for this thing to go forward successfully. So there are things that if we don't get this information, we're not going to be able to start the project. There are things like, if we don't have this conversation, we don't have this meeting, we don't have this documentation, we don't have this access, we can't move forward. And so what you'll have to do is you'd have to say, put a slide up that says these are the key things. And it doesn't have to be very wordy. Just make some big fonts and make it look pretty, and you'll put that on the slide. All right? Because you really want to show that you've captured everything, you've documented everything, you understood what needs to be done. And it's a good way for them to visually see what you're doing, and they'll add things to it. So come out of presentation mode, go into your computer and say, okay, we want to add this too. Add it live with them, so they know it's captured. And when you're done, maybe there are some things in the slide that you don't want to share, But when you're done, maybe the next day, or maybe if it ends on a Friday, for example, maybe next Monday or Tuesday, get together with the team, strip out what you don't want to share, and share the end result with them. This is the final wrap up of all of the things we talked about for over that last 5 days. These are the decisions that we decided on. These are the things that we say that we need to get started with the project. Just make it nice and easy to follow. Strip out all the other stuff that you had to present and just leave the results that the workshop generated. And that is how you run a multi-day workshop. I sincerely hope that this video was useful to somebody, right? That you were able to learn a little bit more about running these workshops over many days. I do have a video that talks about running a workshop like a one-day workshop. Go look at that. Like a one-day workshop. So go look at that. And I hope that you guys enjoy my content. And if you do, please like the video. Like it, subscribe, and let me know that you're here. All right? Leave a comment. Go to my website, karaleise.com. Check out what I have over there. And good luck out there when you do your multi-day workshop. I'll be rooting for you. Take care. Bye-bye.